Everyone is talking about Iran right now, but almost no one can answer the most basic question. Where did Iran actually come from? To find the answer, we need to go back 2,500 years, before the borders, before the religion, before the modern name, to a single man who built something the world had never seen before. His name was Cyrus. He freed 40,000 slaves. The Bible called him a Messiah, and what he built became the foundation of a civilization that still exists today. This is the story of how Iran was born. Before Persia existed, the land we now call Iran was already ancient. 3,000 years before Cyrus was born, people were building cities on this plateau. The Elamites, one of the oldest civilizations on Earth, thrived here when Egypt's pyramids were still new. By 700 BC, the Medes had united the Iranian tribes into a loose empire. They were powerful. They helped destroy the mighty Assyrians, but they were not yet Persia. And here is where the story begins. The word Iran comes from the old Persian word Arianum, meaning land of the Aryans. The country's name is not modern. It is not political. It is 2,500 years old, forged in the same era as the empire itself. In the year 559 BC, a young prince from the small vassal kingdom of Anshan took the throne. His kingdom was tiny. His army was outnumbered. Nobody outside the region knew his name. That was about to change. Cyrus was not born to rule an empire. He was born to serve one. His kingdom of Anshan was a vassal state under the Median Empire. His grandfather was a Median king, but Cyrus himself held no great power. He was a minor prince in a world dominated by three ancient superpowers: the Medes, the Babylonians, and the Lydians. In 550 BC, Cyrus did the unthinkable. He raised an army, marched against the Median Empire, and defeated it. The vassal had overthrown the master. The Persian Empire was born. But what happened next is what made Cyrus different from every conqueror who came before him. He did not execute the Median king. He did not burn the capital. He did not enslave the population. Instead, he let the Median king live. He absorbed the Median people into his new empire as equals, not subjects. Persian and Median nobles served side by side in his court. This was unheard of. In the ancient world, conquered peoples were destroyed, enslaved, or scattered. Cyrus offered them dignity, and because of that, his empire grew not just by force, but by loyalty. In 547 BC, he turned west and conquered Lydia, the kingdom of Croesus, the richest man in the ancient world. The legendary gold of Lydia, the kingdom that invented coined money, now belonged to Persia. By 540 BC, Cyrus controlled territory from modern Turkey to modern Afghanistan. But his greatest conquest was still ahead. In 539 BC, Cyrus turned his army toward the greatest city on earth, Babylon. The walls of Babylon were legendary. Ancient sources describe them as over 80 feet tall and wide enough for two chariots to ride side by side on top. None army had ever breached them by force. Cyrus did not need to. According to ancient accounts, the Babylonian people opened the gates for him. The Babylonian king Nabonidus had alienated his own people. The priests despised him. The population saw Cyrus not as a conqueror, but as a liberator. And then Cyrus did something no conqueror in history had ever done. He wrote a document on a small clay cylinder baked in the sun. It declared freedom of religion for every person in his empire. It banned forced labor. It said every displaced person had the right to return to their homeland. This is the Cyrus cylinder. Cyrus wrote this in 539 BC. The Magna Carta, celebrated as the foundation of Western human rights, was written 1,700 years later. The United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights was written 2,487 years later. Among the people Cyrus freed were 40,000 Jewish captives who had been held in Babylon for nearly 50 years. He allowed them to return to Jerusalem and rebuild their temple. For this act, the Hebrew Bible mentions Cyrus 23 times. He is the only non-Jewish figure in the entire Old Testament called Messiah, the Anointed One. The original Cyrus cylinder sits in the British Museum in London today. A replica stands at the United Nations headquarters in New York City, the world's oldest human rights document. Written by the man who built Iran, Cyrus died in battle in 530 BC, fighting the Massagetae tribe on the empire's eastern frontier. The hero died as he had lived, on the front line, leading from the front. After a brief period of instability, power passed to Darius the Great. And Darius had a vision. He would build a capital so magnificent that every visitor from every corner of the empire would understand the scale of Persian power the moment they walked through the gates. That city was Persepolis. Construction began around 518 BC. Imagine walking through the Gate of All Nations, a towering stone doorway flanked by colossal winged bulls carved from single blocks of limestone. Beyond it, the Apadana, a royal audience hall supported by 72 columns, each standing over 60 feet tall. The stone staircases leading to the hall are carved with relief sculptures showing delegations from every corner of the empire: Babylonians, Egyptians, Indians, Ethiopians, Lydians, each wearing their own clothing, carrying their own gifts, not as conquered subjects, but as honored participants in a shared civilization. And here is a fact that destroys the Hollywood version of Persia. Persepolis was not built by slaves. Archaeological tablets discovered at the site proved that the workers were paid wages. They received rations of grain, meat, and wine. They were given sick leave. Women who had recently given birth received extra food. This was a labor force, not a slave force. 2,000 years before labor rights were a concept in the West, the Persian Empire was practicing them. At its peak under Darius, the empire stretched from the Balkans to the Indus Valley, 5.5 million square kilometers, the largest empire the world had ever seen. 44% of the world's population lived under Persian rule. No empire before or since has governed a greater share of humanity. And Darius connected all of it with the Royal Road, a 700-kilometer highway running from Sardis in modern Turkey to Susa in modern Iran. Relay horsemen could carry a message the entire length in just 7 days. Stations were built every 25 kilometers with fresh horses, food, and water. It was the ancient world's postal system, a communications network spanning 2 continents, built 2,000 years before anything comparable existed in Europe. The Greek historian Herodotus wrote that nothing mortal traveled as fast as the Persian messengers. Neither snow, nor rain, nor heat, nor darkness of night could stop them. That line, 2,500 years later, became the unofficial motto of the United States Postal Service. In 490 BC, Darius sent an army to punish the Greek city-states that had supported a rebellion in Ionia, a Persian province on the coast of modern Turkey. The Greeks had burned the city of Sardis. From Darius's perspective, this was not an invasion. It was a response to an attack on his own territory. The Persian army landed at Marathon, and the Athenians, outnumbered but fighting on home ground, won a stunning victory. Darius planned a second invasion. He died before he could launch it. His son Xerxes inherited the throne in the grudge. In 480 BC, Xerxes assembled the largest army the ancient world had ever seen. Ancient sources claim over 1 million soldiers, though modern historians estimate between 100,000 and 300,000. The army included Persians, Medes, Babylonians, Egyptians, Indians, and Ethiopians. It was the most diverse fighting force in human history. You have heard of the 300 Spartans. Here is what the movies left out. There were 7,000 Greek soldiers at Thermopylae, not 300. The Spartans were the last to die, after the other Greeks had retreated. They were heroic, but the real story is far more complicated than Hollywood tells you. And the Persian soldiers who fought and died at that same pass were not monsters. They were men, following their king, thousands of miles from home. Xerxes won Thermopylae. He burned Athens. But then, at the naval battle of Salamis, the Greek fleet destroyed the Persian navy in the narrow straits. The tide turned. Xerxes withdrew. The dream of conquering Greece died on the water. For over a century after the Greek wars, the Persian Empire endured. It remained the largest, wealthiest, and most organized state on Earth, but internal struggles weakened it. By the time a young Macedonian king named Alexander crossed into Asia in 334 BC, the empire was no longer what Cyrus and Darius had built. Alexander's army was smaller but disciplined, fast and ruthless. In 3 decisive battles, he shattered the Persian military. In 330 BC, he reached Persepolis, and he burned it to the ground. Ancient historians report that Alexander wept afterward. He called the burning a mistake. In the years that followed, he adopted Persian clothing, Persian customs, and married a Persian princess named Roxana. The conqueror had been conquered by the culture he destroyed. The Persian Empire was over. 220 years of the largest civilization the ancient world had ever known, reduced to ashes in memory. But here is what survived: the Persian language, Persian poetry, Persian architecture. The idea of tolerance was written on a clay cylinder in 539 BC. And the name itself? Iran, the land of the Aryans. The same names spoken by the same people on the same soil for 2,500 years. The empire died. The civilization never did. 2,500 years ago, a man from a tiny kingdom freed 40,000 slaves, wrote the first human rights charter, and built the largest empire the world had ever seen. The Bible called him a Messiah. History nearly forgot him. Now you know his name. If this changed the way you see Iran and the way you see history, subscribe. We are bringing lost civilizations back to life, one empire at a time.